What if the reason you stumble in English conversations isn't actually because you know too few words, but because your brain literally has too much time to think?
Yeah, that's a huge issue.
Right, because you know all the grammar rules, you have this massive vocabulary stored up, you can ace a written exam without even breaking a sweat. But
Absolutely.
then you go to like a networking event or a dinner party, you open your mouth, and suddenly it sounds like you're reading directly from an audio textbook. It's rigid, it's formal, it just doesn't sound natural at all.
It is a notoriously common frustration for advanced learners. I mean, you hit this plateau.
Yeah.
There's this enormous gap between understanding the mechanics of English on a printed page and actually participating in the spontaneous, messy, fast-paced flow of a real-world conversation.
Well, bridging that exact gap is our mission today. Welcome to this deep dive. We are exploring a massive stack of linguistic research, idiom dictionaries, and conversational guides to uncover this highly counterintuitive secret to natural English fluency.
It's really fascinating stuff.
It is. We're going to build you a customized daily practice routine using a transformative technique called shadowing.
Right, and it completely reorients how you interact with the language. You stop being this passive consumer of information, just analyzing grammar rules from afar,
Yeah.
and you start becoming an active participant in the actual physical, muscular act of speaking.
Because learning English purely from written texts, from grammar books and lists, is essentially like trying to learn how to dance by reading a physics textbook.
Oh, exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Like, you can memorize the exact angle your knee is supposed to bend,
Mhm.
right? You can calculate the velocity of a spin on paper. But when the music actually starts playing and someone reaches for your hand, you're gonna freeze.
You'll have no idea what to do.
Right. To actually dance, you need to put the book down, get out on the floor, and just mimic the movements of someone who already knows the steps.
And shadowing is basically your way onto that dance floor. It involves acting as a continuous vocal echo. You listen to a piece of audio from a native speaker, and you repeat what they're saying immediately as they talk. You don't wait for them to finish a sentence.
You just jump right in.
Exactly. You don't pause the track to catch your breath. You speak simultaneously, matching their exact pace, tone, melody, and rhythm.
So before we jump into the specific routine, we really have to look at why this is even necessary. Like, what makes everyday speech so profoundly different from the English we read on a page?
Well, linguistics views written and spoken English not just as different styles, but as operating on entirely different registers. Written language is static. It's space-bound.
It just sits there.
Right. It sits on the page, allowing the writer to carefully plan, edit, and use highly complex syntax. And you, as the reader, can stop and reread a sentence if you lose the thread.
Yeah, you have time.
But spoken language is time-bound. It's spontaneous. Once the sound wave dissipates in the air, it's gone forever. It happens in real time under intense cognitive constraints.
Right, because when you're speaking, you're simultaneously trying to retrieve the right vocabulary, sequence it in grammatical order, physically pronounce it, and monitor the other person's face to see if they actually understand you.
Exactly. It's a massive cognitive load. And because of that, native speakers naturally optimize their speech for efficiency.
They cut corners.
They absolutely do. They reduce the syntactic complexity. They rely on colloquialisms. And they use these phonetic reductions that look completely wrong if you write them down, but sound perfectly natural to the ear. The tongue naturally seeks the physical path of least resistance.
Right, and one of our sources provides this brilliant example of this. So imagine this sentence: I am going to make a cup of tea before we leave.
Perfect grammar.
Grammatically perfect, beautifully written. But a native speaker in a casual setting might phonetically blur that entire sentence into something like, I'm going to make a cuppa before we go.
Yeah, and if you try to articulate every single crisp syllable of I'm going to make a cup of tea while standing in a busy kitchen with friends, you instantly sound stiff.
You sound like the physics textbook.
Exactly. And shadowing fixes this by forcing you to bypass the written spelling entirely. By mimicking the audio simultaneously, you physically train your mouth. You're building muscle memory in your tongue, your jaw, and your vocal tract.
You're mastering the prosody, right? Like the music, the pitch, the stress, and the rhythm of the language.
Yes, you stop reading individual words and start producing fluid sounds.
So to achieve that, you need a highly structured daily routine. The research strongly recommends a 10 to 15-minute daily schedule built around a really specific process. First, you curate your material.
Right. You select a target accent.
Yeah, maybe a specific host or a YouTube creator you want to sound like. And you actively listen to a 1 or 2 minute clip a few times just to get the gist.
Then we get to the actual shadowing phase. And the sources differentiate between beginner and advanced practice here. If you're newer to this, you shadow with a transcript in front of you.
Okay, so reading along.
Right. You listen, you speak, and you read simultaneously to map those chaotic blended sounds to actual words. But then, for advanced practice, you take the training wheels off.
You drop the text entirely.
You have to drop the transcript and shadow relying purely on your ear. That transition is absolutely critical.
Why is that so important?
Because your brain's visual cortex is incredibly dominant. If you're reading text while listening to audio, the reading will often override the listening.
Oh, wow.
Your brain will trick you into pronouncing the word the way it's spelled, rather than the way the native speaker just reduced it. Dropping the transcript forces your brain to rely purely on the acoustic data.
That makes sense.
And following that, you record yourself, compare your recording to the original to self-assess, and then repeat.
Wait, practically speaking, though, how does my brain not just short-circuit during this process? I mean, if I'm listening to a voice, processing what it means, and producing my own voice over the top of it at the exact same millisecond, that sounds incredibly distracting.
It is, but that overwhelming cognitive demand is actually the secret genius of the technique.
Really?
Yeah, when you listen and speak simultaneously, your brain simply does not have the processing bandwidth left over to overanalyze the grammar rules or constantly cross-reference the syntax.
So it effectively just jams your internal editing mechanism.
Exactly. It forces you to just exist entirely in the English soundscape. You stop treating English as a math problem to be solved and start experiencing it directly as a physical rhythm.
Well, if we're trapped in the soundscape, what exactly should we be mimicking? Because to sound native, it seems like you can't just shadow the main verbs and the nouns. You have to shadow what the research calls the invisible language.
Yes. We are talking about conversational fillers.
Okay.
Words that traditional English teachers historically told students to avoid at all costs.
Huh.
Words like, literally like, and well.
But wait, why shadow something we've been taught is a bad habit?
Because modern sociolinguistics views these entirely differently. These fillers are not lazy mistakes. They serve vital cognitive and social functions.
How so?
They're essentially conversational traffic signals. When a speaker uses, they're actively buying themselves crucial milliseconds to retrieve a complex vocabulary word without signaling that they're done speaking.
Oh, so they're holding their turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they also use these words to soften their assertions so they don't sound overly blunt or demanding in social settings.
Okay, so if the speaker is using fillers to manage their own cognitive load and buy time, what is the listener doing to hold up their end of the bargain without interrupting?
That introduces back-channeling. This is how listeners actively show engagement. In American English, it's the right, or the
And the science behind this timing is absolutely mind-blowing. Like, native speakers don't just throw out an randomly while someone is talking.
No, not at all.
The research shows that the person speaking actually issues subconscious prosodic cues to invite the listener to chime in. For example, in English, the speaker will drop their pitch for exactly 110 milliseconds or more at specific clause boundaries.
It's so precise.
It is. And then, almost like clockwork, the listener naturally inserts their back channel about 700 milliseconds later.
It's a highly synchronized unconscious dance.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly culturally specific.
Really? Like, it changes my language.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you try to use Japanese back-channel timing, which is much more frequent while listening to an American speaker, you might come across as anxious or like you're rushing them.
Oh, wow.
And if you use Arabic back-channel verbal agreements, it might feel disjointed. Mastering the English timing is what makes you feel like an empathetic, natural listener.
But how do you practice something that happens in a fraction of a second? The sources suggest this fascinating technique, actually. You try humming the pitch movements of a conversation before you even add the actual words.
That's a great exercise.
Right. You put on a dialogue and you just hum the rise and fall of the interaction. You focus purely on the musicality, the melody of when the pitch drops and when the kicks in.
By removing the distraction of the actual vocabulary, you allow your brain to internalize the underlying melody of English interaction. You feel the rhythm before you speak the words.
I mean, think of it this way. Filler words and back channels are like the shock absorbers in a car.
Okay, I like that.
They don't steer the vehicle. The verbs, the nouns, the actual arguments do that. But without them, spontaneous real-time thought is a terribly bumpy, jarring ride. The shock absorbers just smooth everything out so the conversation glides effortlessly down the road.
And once you've mastered that underlying rhythm and installed those conversational shock absorbers, you can start applying your 15-minute shadowing practice to highly predictable, everyday social scripts.
Because so much of our daily life is actually just running the same scripts over and over, right? Take small talk and greetings. Small talk gets a terrible reputation for being superficial. But sociologically, it's essential for building baseline trust.
It really is.
And the sources highlight a great tool for managing the FORD framework. FORD, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
It just gives you a safe, universally accepted set of topics to navigate those awkward opening moments of an interaction.
Exactly. So you can practice shadowing soft openers around these topics. Things like, how's life treating you these days? Or, how's everything in your neck of the woods? You shadow those phrases until they just roll off your tongue without a second thought.
And from there, you move into transactional scripts. The classic example is the restaurant or coffee shop scenario. This is a highly structured environment with distinct phases.
It's basically a tactical mission. You walk in and you hit the reservation phase. I'd like to make a reservation for 2. Then the ordering phase, can I get the grilled salmon? Then you have the modification phase, which is absolutely crucial for modern dining. Could I get that dressing on the side? And finally, the payment phase. Can we get the check, please?
Right, it's totally predictable.
But wait, if I'm standing in my living room repeating the phrase dressing on the side along with an audio track, aren't I essentially just rehearsing lines for a play?
Yes, you absolutely are. And that is the exact psychological mechanism that makes it work. Mastering these predictable scripts through daily, physical repetition significantly reduces your baseline social anxiety.
Because when I get to the front of the line at the coffee shop with the espresso machine roaring and people waiting behind me, I am not panic searching my brain for the correct preposition.
Exactly. When the phrase, can I get that dressing on the side, is pure muscle memory, it frees up your brain's processing power. You aren't worrying about your syntax.
You're just present.
Right. That means you can actually look the barista in the eye, observe their body language, listen to their tone, and form a genuine human connection. Building that cognitive shield of rehearsed scripts is what allows your real personality to finally shine through in English.
Okay, so let's say you have the scripts locked down. You're humming the back channels. You're ordering coffee like a native. Here is where we reach the final evolution of your daily shadowing routine. Once that foundation is physically comfortable, it's time to layer in the vibrant, expressive color of natural English.
We're talking about phrasal verbs and idiomatic expressions. This is the transition from simply communicating information to truly sounding native.
Let's look at phrasal verbs first. Remember that strict divide between formal written English and spoken English we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of writing, I'm disappointed by the result, a native speaker chatting with a friend at a pub will almost always substitute a phrasal verb or a piece of slang. They'll say, I'm a bit gutted.
Or instead of saying, let us exchange news, which sounds incredibly robotic and formal, they'll say, let's catch up. Right. Phrasal verbs combine a standard verb with a preposition to create an entirely new meaning. And they are the absolute lifeblood of casual spoken English.
And then you have idiomatic expressions. These are phrases where the literal meaning of the words has absolutely nothing to do with what you're actually communicating. You need to practice mimicking these in your shadowing routine to handle everyday contexts naturally.
So if you're using that FORD framework to make small talk at a networking event, you're trying to break the ice.
And if someone invites you out for lunch but your schedule is packed, you don't issue a formal written decline. You politely tell them you need to take a rain check on that coffee. Or if you finish a project easily, you don't declare that required minimal exertion. You just smile and say it was a piece of cake.
It's so much more natural.
But think of idioms like hot spices in cooking. A little bit, a pinch here, a dash there makes the dish brilliantly authentic and flavorful. It shows you your way around the kitchen.
Yeah, but you have to be careful.
Exactly. If you get overly excited and dump the whole jar in, using 3 or 4 idioms in a single sentence, the conversation becomes completely overwhelming, confusing, and highly unnatural. You end up sounding like a cartoon character.
Pragmatic competence is knowing not just how to pronounce an idiom, but when to use it, and understanding that moderation is key.
Let's summarize this entire toolkit so you can start tomorrow morning. Your mission is to carve out just 15 minutes a day. You're going to curate an audio clip of a native speaker, and you're going to echo them simultaneously.
And drop the transcript as soon as you can.
Right. You're going to focus on the prosody, the physical rhythm of the mouth. You'll practice dropping in those natural shock-absorbing fillers and back channels, and you will rehearse the predictable scripts of daily life, sprinkled with just the right amount of idiomatic spice.
And for those who want to take this practice to the absolute highest level, the research highlights a technique developed by polyglots known as the Arguelles method.
This is a wild concept, but the underlying biology of it makes so much sense.
It really does. The method suggests doing your 15 minutes of shadowing while walking swiftly outdoors with exceptionally good posture.
Like basically marching.
You are almost marching. The physical movement engages your entire body in the language learning process. Keeping your shoulders back opens up your diaphragm, which dramatically improves your vocal resonance and breath control.
Oh, so that's brilliant.
Furthermore, the brisk walking maximizes oxygenation and blood flow to the brain, which triggers the release of neurochemicals that significantly increase mental alertness and memory consolidation.
So you're pacing down the sidewalk, physically embodying the rhythm of a conversation about coffee, and building that deep muscle memory. It turns language learning from this sedentary intellectual exercise into an active physical sport.
It absolutely does.
But I want to leave you with one final fascinating realization about the language you're about to shadow. When you practice these common idioms, you are often participating in some truly bizarre hidden histories that have been entirely divorced from their original meaning.
Yeah, the origins of the everyday phrases we use without a second thought can be remarkably stark.
Take an everyday script about shopping. You might shadow a phrase using the idiom pay through the nose, meaning something is incredibly expensive. You might casually say, that new car made me pay through the nose.
Right.
By saying that, you are actually referencing a brutal Viking-era punishment. Centuries ago, if you evaded your taxes, the authorities would literally slit your nose from tip to eyebrow.
That is just terrifying.
Over hundreds of years, that horrifying, visceral image of taxation morphed into a casual complaint about inflation at the grocery store.
It really makes you wonder what other ancient histories, forgotten practices, and strange cultural echoes you're carrying forward every single time you engage in a casual chat.
The English language is packed with them. So the next time you feel frustrated that your spoken English sounds like you're reading from a rigid academic textbook, remember, nobody learns to dance by staring at the physics of a spin. You have to get out of the book. You have to get on the dance floor. Find a partner to shadow. Feel the rhythm. Bypass that overanalyzing brain of yours and start moving. Keep humming those back channels. Keep practicing those everyday scripts and enjoy the music of the language.